A five-star book is a beautiful thing. A five-star book is a very, very beautiful thing. And, there aren't that many out there. Last year, I read 2 books that I would consider to be 5-star books. But this year is different, okay? This is the year of the 5-star books. I'm going to be reading so many books that I think will be 5 stars. And I'm going to return to this video at the end of the year and see if my psychic abilities to judge my own taste will in fact come true. And I think they will, because I just have that. I'm just of that level, you know what I mean? Like, I just have that special something. Basically, I'm just going to be talking about some books that I plan to read over this next year that I think will be 5-star books for me. And I'll go into why I think that is later on in the video. Right now, I'm reading The Grapes of Wrath by John Steinbeck. And maybe a hot take, but this book is good. It's very different than every other John Steinbeck book that I read. I read 2 others last year, The Pearl and Of Mice and Men. Those were very fast reads, and this is not at all that. It's very slow. It loves to take its time. But it's not in a bad way. Not in a bad way. This book is just trying to establish its own atmosphere, which I really enjoy, actually. It's kind of this slow, dusty, mundane. It's about this family in the Dust Bowl era trying to go to California because the bank has basically taken their farmland. I'm 158 pages into The Grapes of Wrath, and I wouldn't say that it's the most exciting thing to pick up and read, which is why I'm kind of slowly making my way through it. But it is always really good when I do pick it up. But this isn't even the book that I'm talking about that I think is going to be a 5-star read. The 5-star read prediction that I have is for East of Eden by John Steinbeck, and the reason that I'm not reading that is because I felt like East of Eden I would like more than this, and I didn't want to be disappointed by this book when I eventually got to it, so I just decided to read this one first. The reason I think that East of Eden will be a 5-star book for me is because it checks all the boxes of things that I enjoy. It's a family drama, it's sort of an intimate epic, and I like the sort of biblical allegory aspect of it as well. I like the movie. Just everything about the story appeals to me, so I have a feeling, and just based off of what other people said, that it's a lot of people's favorite book of all time, and I think that definitely could be the case for me as well. I don't want to jinx it, but who knows? It definitely has the potential to be that. I'm really enjoying The Grapes of Wrath, and I think just the story of East of Eden will appeal to me even more. East of Eden, 5 stars, calling it right now. Next one I have is kind of a weird one. I don't know if I've ever seen anyone on YouTube talk about this book. They probably have. I just haven't seen any videos about it. But it's Crossroads by Jonathan Franzen. I'm purely judging this book by its cover. As you can see, you got a guy with an acoustic guitar there with a young lady there. And I don't know. I love folk music. I like acoustic guitar music. They just look like a couple hipsters singing under a tree. That just kind of sounds like my vibe. I like that. He's probably best known for The Corrections. I've heard a million things about that book. That's supposed to be very good. But even the negative reviews that I've seen of his books seem to be focused on the characters, which I just think is really interesting. They'll say that, I didn't like this character because of this reason, or I really liked this character because of this reason. And what I think is interesting is that even when a review is being negative about one of his books, it still seems to immerse them enough to have them have these frustrations about these characters. And that might just be me reading into it too much, but I think that any book that can hook a reader enough to be invested to that degree is still something that's pretty special. I'm not totally sure that this one will be a 5-star book for me, but if it's not, I'm going to cut off my own legs and I'm going to sell them on Depop. Now, if you saw my best books of 2022 video, you know that I fell in love with As I Lay Dying by William Faulkner. It became my favorite book of all time, and I got some more Faulkner for Christmas. Light in August, I have The Sound and the Fury, and I have Absalom, Absalom. And Absalom, Absalom is the book that I think will probably be a 5-star book for me. The reason for that is I've heard people say that this is his magnum opus. This is one of the best books in the English language. And Faulkner even said that himself. He said when he wrote this book, I believe this is the best book ever written by an American or something like that. And you just got to admire the confidence, I'm sort of apprehensive with this book because it's supposed to be more difficult than As I Lay Dying. And that was already a pretty difficult book. And the storyline of that book really appealed to me. Just the weirdness of it and the kind of morbidity of it. And I don't know much about the storyline of this book. And also the characters were really interesting in that book, and I just hope they're as interesting in this book. I'm sure they will be, but it's just like a thing in the back of my head that I'm like, I really hope that it lives up to just sort of the personal attachment I had to the characters in that book and the story. So Absalom is Faulkner's epic tale of Thomas Sutpen, an enigmatic stranger who comes to Jefferson, Mississippi in the early 1830s to wrest his mansion out of the muddy bottoms of the North Mississippi wilderness. He was a man, Faulkner said, who wanted sons, and the sons destroyed him. Sounds interesting. I'll probably read Light in August first just because it's supposed to be a bit easier, and then I'll go into Absalom, and then The Sound and the Fury, and I'm planning to do a video where I talk about my experience reading his books, so that should be fun. But this book is also supposed to have the longest English sentence in a book. It's kind of wild. Anyway, The Bell Jar by The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath is one that I have been meaning to get to for a very long time. It's supposed to be very, very sad, very thought-provoking. The premise of it is really what makes me excited to read it, because it just sounds very original, especially for a classic. And the opening of the book is so iconic and so amazing. Like, I hope the rest of the book is that good. A vulnerable young girl wins a dream assignment on a big-time New York fashion magazine and finds herself plunged into a nightmare. An autobiographical account of Sylvia Plath's own mental breakdown and suicide attempt, The Bell Jar is more than a confessional novel. It is a comic but painful statement of what happens to a woman's aspirations in a society that refuses to take them seriously. A society that expects electroshock to cure the despair of a sensitive, questioning young artist whose search for identity becomes a terrifying descent toward madness. Ooh. It sounds very intense, but I like an intense book. I like a sad book, and especially a book as iconic and as groundbreaking as The Bell Jar. I'm really looking forward to it. Slaughterhouse 5, more like Slaughterhouse 5 stars. Remember to click like on the YouTube video. I don't really know anything about this book. It just has this punk rock energy to it. I've heard so much about Kurt Vonnegut's writing. He's just one of those iconic modernist writers. And I just love the cover of it and the title, and it's just so intriguing. There's something, it seems like it'll be an easy book to read, but be really dense too. That's at least what I'm hoping for. But again, I know nothing about this book, so let's just read the back. Slaughterhouse 5, an American classic, is one of the world's great anti-war books. Centering on the infamous firebombing of Dresden, Billy Pilgrim's Odyssey Through Time reflects the mythic journey of our own fractured lives as we search for meaning in what we fear most. Yeah, sounds really cool. Looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to how short it is. That's definitely a plus. And the last book I want to talk about is Stoner by John Williams. I don't actually own this book yet, and in fact, I was trying to look for it at a local secondhand bookstore that I go to, but I couldn't find it. And so instead I got Butcher's Crossing by John Williams, same author. This one's about like buffalo hunting or something like that. And this is also supposed to be very good, but this is just essentially a placeholder. I'm going to read this book before I read Stoner. The reason that I think Stoner will be a 5-star book for me is because it's supposed to be very introspective. It's supposed to be existential. It tackles academic life, intellectualism, if that's a word. There's some books where you just feel like you feel like it's right up your alley. And that's what I think and I hope that book will be for me. I've heard nothing but great things about John Williams' writing, and especially Stoner. It's a classic. Here's hoping that that one lives up to the hype. It could also suck and be really bad. Oh, I almost forgot to talk about The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. The only thing I've read of Oscar Wilde's is The Importance of Being Earnest, which I really enjoyed. This is supposed to be, I think, more serious. That book was definitely a comedy, or that play was a comedy. This one, I believe, is supposed to be like a gothic kind of drama about vanity and aging and all that. And it's one of those rare cases where I see people talking about it on YouTube, even if they're not into classics, they tend to like this book. So as someone who does enjoy classics, I feel like maybe I'll get even more enjoyment out of it, or at least the same level of enjoyment. Let's see what this is about. Oscar Wilde brings his enormous gifts for astute social observation and sparkling prose to The Picture of Dorian Gray, his dreamlike story of a young man who sells his soul for eternal youth and beauty. This dandy, who remains forever unchanged, petulant, hedonistic, vain, and amoral, while a painting of him ages and grows increasingly hideous with the years, has been horrifying, enchanting, obsessing, even corrupting readers for more than 100 years. That's a lot of things that's happening to those readers, corrupting them even. I hope this book corrupts me. I want it to corrupt me. I want it to corrode my brain like a battery and leave me a hollow husk of my former self. It's high hopes, but I think it's possible. I think it could happen. Anyway, that's it for today. I basically wanted to make a quick video just between the last video and my next video, which I'm really excited about. Obviously, my thoughts on these books aren't going to be super well thought out because I haven't read them. Just something to kind of, fill up that little gap of time. So yeah, thanks for watching. Let me know if you've read any of these books and what you think about them. If you think I'm wrong about them being 5 stars, then you